Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati, the principal investigator of the subject Indian culture. In the present module of the paper Outlines of Indian History, now we are going to discuss about the slave dynasty. The slave dynasty is the first dynasty in the history of Delhi Sultanate. It is known that the establishment of Delhi Sultanate marks a new beginning in the history of medieval India in all respects. The Delhi Sultanate and its dynasties played an important role, not only creating a new era, but also they brought so many changes in political, social, religious and cultural aspects of the age. Thus, the Delhi Sultanate is important in the study of Indian history and culture. The learning objectives of the present module are to know about the slave or Mamluk dynasty. In this module, we are going to learn about the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, the slave dynasty, its important rulers, Qutb-ud-din Aibak, Iltutmish, Sultana Razia, Balban, the theory of Balban kingship and their role in Indian history and culture. Before starting about the slave dynasty, let us to review the political developments that took place prior to slave dynasty for the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, how it was established and how the slave dynasty rose to prominence. It is known that the successful campaigns of Muhammad Ghazni and Ghori, which it resulted for the establishment of Delhi Sultanate in the end of 12th century. Muhammad Ghori, since he has no sons, he raised thousands of slaves like royal children and provided them with training in all matters. During the Ghori period, slaves occupied all key positions in the government. Particularly, three important slaves, Qutb-ud-din Aibak, Taj-ud-din Yildiz and Nasiruddin Mahmud, were favorite slaves of Sultan Muhammad Ghori. These slaves, during his reign, he appointed as a governors of Delhi, Ghazni and Lahore. But after the death of Muhammad Ghori, his empire was divided between three rival factories led by Yildiz, Aibak and Kubacha. Thus, the Muhammad Ghori and his victories over Indian subcontinent, it resulted for the establishment of several dynasties, particularly in India. It paved the way for the establishment of the slave dynasty. The Sultanate of Delhi, formerly founded by Qutb-ud-din Aibak, it is known as the Sultanate of Delhi because during the greater part of Sultanate, its capital was Delhi. The Sultanate of Delhi had 5 ruling dynasties, which begins from 1206 to 1526. In these 320 years, the slave dynasty ruled from 1206 to 1290, the Khilji dynasty 1290 to 1320, the Tughlaq dynasty 1320 to 1414, the Sayyid dynasty 1414 to 1451, and the last, the Lodi dynasty 1451 to 1526. The first dynasty of Sultanate has been designated variously by historians as the slave dynasty, the early Turk dynasty, the Mamluk and also the Ilbari dynasty. With this brief introduction on the Delhi Sultanate, let us start our discussion on the slave dynasty. Who are the founders of the slave dynasty, the important rulers, their achievements and their contribution to the history and culture of India and their place in medieval history. The slave or Mamluk dynasty is the first dynasty of Delhi Sultanate, which they ruled from 1206 to 1290. This is the beginning period in the history of Sultanate. The founder of the slave dynasty is Qutb-ud-din Aibak. He was the Turk of Aibak tribe. In his childhood, he was purchased by a kind-hearted Qazi of Nishapur as a slave. In the childhood, he received education in Islamic theory and swordsmanship along with the son of his master. When that Qazi was died, he was sold by his son to a merchant who took him to Ghazni, where he was purchased by Muhammad Ghori. Thus, the Qutb-ud-din Aibak started his life and career as a slave under Muhammad Ghori. Qutb-ud-din Aibak impressed Muhammad Ghori by his courage and other laudable qualities, and within a short period, he won the confidence of his master. Then he rose to the position of Amir-e-Akur, that is the master of the royal stable. During the invasions of Muhammad Ghori, he rendered valuable services to his master in all Indian expeditions. In view of the services extended by Qutb-ud-din Aibak, Muhammad Ghori nominated him as the viceroy of his newly conquered dominions in India. Thus, Qutb-ud-din Aibak started his career in India as the viceroy of the newly conquered possessions of Muhammad Ghori. Later, he played an important role in the expansion of Turkish Sultanate in India after the Battle of Tarain, which occurred in the year 1192. Regarding the career and achievements of Qutb-ud-din Aibak, we have to assess his services to the Ghori and also to the slave dynasty in two stages. As a viceroy of India, he did yeoman service in the consolidation of the Muhammad Ghori's administration in India, and also later after the death of Muhammad Ghori, he himself started an independent dynasty. As a viceroy of Muhammad Ghori, Qutb-ud-din Aibak completed the work of his master and founded the Muslim Empire in India. He suppressed all the rebellions at Ajmer headed by Hari Raja, the brother of Prithviraj. Then he captured Meerut, Aligarh and Delhi by defeating the remnants of Rajputs in 1192 and 93. Qutb-ud-din Aibak also assisted Muhammad Ghori in the Battle of Chandwar against Jayachandra and occupied the principal political center of the North, Kannauj, and also the religious center, Benares. He also defeated the Sulakshana and occupied the fort of Gwalior. He also routed the confederacy headed by Bhima II and plundered the city of Anhilwad in the year 1196. He also besieged the fortress of Kalinjar, Mahoba and Badan. The important military achievement of the Qutb-ud-din Aibak was the conquest of Bengal and Bihar by his deputy Bakhtiyar Khilji in the year 1197. Later, in order to strengthen his position, he conducted many matrimonial alliances with other nobles of Muhammad Ghori. Among the matrimonial alliances, he himself married the daughter of Tajuddin Eldoj. He gave one of his sisters to Nasiruddin Kubacha, who later declared as a ruler of Sindh. He also gave his daughter in marriage to loyal slave Iltutmish, who later succeeded him as a successor. Qutb-ud-din Aibak, from this discussion, it is a fact that even before the starting of the slave dynasty, already as a viceroy, he consolidated the Muhammad Ghori's rule in India, and this paved the way for the establishment of slave dynasty and also for the expansion of the Delhi Sultanate in the coming centuries. Regarding the achievements of Qutb-ud-din Aibak as a sultan, he started the independent dynasty in the year 1206. In the 1206, he became independent after the death of Ghori with the title Sultan. He had to face many challenges from in and around the country at the beginning of his succession. The problem is the Tajuddin Eldoj, the another slave of Muhammad Ghori, who succeeded similarly at Ghazni. When he succeeded the throne at Delhi, there was a lot of opposition for the capture of Delhi. Particularly, the main contender is Tajuddin Eldoj. Tajuddin Eldoj, who claimed to rule over the Delhi as well with the rule of Ghazni. This, however, was not accepted by Aibak from this time. Thus, the Delhi Sultanate severed its links with Ghazni. They became the main contenders in the succeeding years. After putting an end to the attempts of Tajuddin Eldoj, Aibak started further expansion of his territories in India and consolidate his position. Particularly the Rajputs, though they were vanquished in northern India, even before Aibak's succession, they were eagerly waiting for possible recovery. So in that recovery, in this phase of difficulties, Aibak consolidated his Indian conquest by adding some more victories to his credit. Among the important victories of Qutb-ud-din Aibak, he successfully established the supremacy over the Turkish nobles of Bengal by following a policy of war and diplomacy. That is the important policy which Aibak followed to consolidate his authority in India. Another important achievement of the Qutb-ud-din Aibak is the suppression of Bengal revolt. It is known that when he succeeded the throne, there were revolts in the succession of the throne at Bengal. One of their contenders, Ali Mardan Khan, the ruler of Bengal, he sought assistance from Qutb-ud-din Aibak. Thus, he decided to extend his support to suppress the Bengal revolt. He followed a twin policies, both war and diplomacy. In that war, he successfully defeated the Bengal rulers and installed Ali Mardan Khan, the ruler of Bengal, as his governor, and he agreed to pay annual tributes. In another campaign, Qutb-ud-din Aibak successfully defeated Eldoj and occupied Ghazni for some time. This victory was short-lived. Later, he was driven out by Eldoj. However, he had left his tasks unfinished because he ruled the Sultanate only 4 years. Within a short period, Aibak successfully established the Saif dynasty and also consolidated his position and suppressed his revolts. But unfortunately, after ruling 4 years, Qutb-ud-din Aibak died of injuries in a fall from his horse while playing chogan, that is polo, in the year 1210. Thus, the Qutb-ud-din lost his life abruptly. However, Qutb-ud-din Aibak established his own name and fame in the history of India and its culture. Qutb-ud-din Aibak and his place in Indian history, it is a rememberable one. Among the contributions of Qutb-ud-din Aibak, he has the credit of establishing Turkish rule in India. He rose to high position from the life of a slave. As a ruler, he possessed all qualities of loyalty, generosity, courage, and sense of justice. Because of that, he earned the title of Lakh Baksh because of the distribution of money to welfare programs and other poorer sections. Qutb-ud-din Aibak not only showed interest in the political as well as the administrative matters, he was also a great builder. He constructed 2 mosques, one at Delhi known as Quwat-ul-Islam and other at Ajmer, Adai Din Ka Janpura. He also laid the foundation of Qutb Minar after the name of the famous Sufi saint Khwaja Qutb-ud-din Bakhtiyar Kaki. Have a look at the mosques which were constructed by Aibak at Delhi and Ajmer. So far we discussed about Qutb-ud-din Aibak, his career, how he rose to the position from a small position slave to Sultan, then how he established the slave dynasty and his role in increasing the name and fame of the slave dynasty or Mamluk dynasty and his contribution to Indian history and place in medieval period as a first ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. But after Qutb-ud-din Aibak, he was succeeded by Aram Shah, who ruled only a short span of 1 year. He was Aibak's son, but he was an incompetent ruler. Because of his incompetency, the people of Delhi refused to accept him as ruler. Particularly, the powerful governors of several provinces like the Kubacha of Multan, Ali Mardan Khan of Bengal, they refused to recognize the suzerainty of Aram Shah. At this critical situation, some of the courtiers invited another slave and son-in-law of Qutb-ud-din Aibak, Iltutmish, to become the Sultan. He accepted this proposal and captured the throne by defeating Aram Shah. Now, we may move to discuss about the Iltutmish, his career and his achievements. Iltutmish is one of the able kings of Delhi Sultanate who ruled in between 1211 to 1236 with the duration of 25 years. Like Qutb-ud-din Aibak, he was also a slave, and later he became a son-in-law of the Sultan Aibak. He belonged to the Ilbari tribe. That's why this dynasty is also called as Ilbari dynasty. Regarding his career, he commenced his career as a Sar-e-Jandar, that is the head of the royal bodyguard during the time of Aibak. He also won the admiration of his master and became the governor of Balban within a short period. Iltutmish also credited so many achievements. He also led several campaigns for further expansion of the Delhi Sultanate. Regarding the important achievements, Iltutmish centralized on securing his throne from rivals in the beginning itself. Particularly, when Iltutmish ascended the throne, the Mongol menace became very problem for the survival of the Delhi Sultanate. Particularly the Chengiz Khan, the Mongol, had become powerful and established a vast empire in the same period. The Chengiz, with an intention of extending his territories towards the Sindh, he tried his level best, but he failed. At the same time, Chengiz defeated Jalaluddin Mahmud, the ruler of Khwarizm. When the Chengiz Khan invaded on the Jalaluddin, he ran away from that city, and Mahmud sought asylum from Iltutmish. Iltutmish refused to give him shelter in order to save his empire from the onslaught of Mongols. Thus shows about his foresight, and to consolidate his position, he tried to contend the rivals rather than asylum. Fortunately, for Iltutmish and Jalal, there was no any threat from the Chengiz Khan, because Chengiz Khan had to return back his attention to his home without further invasion over the slave dynasty. The other achievements of the Sultan are the suppression of Rajasthan revolts. He conquered the Rajasthan states of Ranthambore, Ajmer, Sambar, Nagaur and Gwalior. Taking advantage of the defeat of Kubacha of Sindh, Multan and Sindh were annexed to the Delhi Sultanate. Thus, he successfully controlled the northern frontiers. After this, Iltutmish concentrated on the suppression of Bihar and Bengal regions. In these invasions, he successfully reasserted his control over Bihar and Bengal. Further, he led an expedition against the Malwa and captured Bilsa. The conquest of Ujjain was followed by the demolition of the ancient Mahakal temple. In the expedition to punish the Banyan Rajputs, he fell ill and unfortunately he died on the way in the year 1236. Thus, Iltutmish, during the 25 years of his reign, almost all his time, he spared for the consolidation of power, and he faced successfully all the rebellions. He controlled the Mongols and also he put an end to the Rajputs, and his territories were extended to Bengal and even up to Malwa country. And Iltutmish also occupied an important place in Indian history because as a ruler, he provided much needed stability to the empire. He faced all the challenges boldly and saved the empire from disruption. Iltutmish was solemnly consecrated as a Sultan of Delhi by a representative of the Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad in the year 1229. This gave a legal status to the Iltutmish kingship. It is known that Iltutmish have no legal heirs from his sons. Thus, he nominated his daughter Razia as his successor. With the nomination of Razia as a next successor, he brought a new line of hereditaryship. The hereditary succession to the Delhi Sultanate was initiated by himself. He was very generous to talented people who willingly became the pillars of the central administration under Iltutmish. To consolidate his position and for effective administrative arrangements, he created a new class of ruling elite of 40, that is, powerful military leaders from Turkish nobles. In the financial matters are concerned, he was the king who introduced the Arabic coinage in India. Particularly, silver tanka became a standard coin in medieval India from this period onwards. Have a look at the coins issued by Iltutmish. Iltutmish was also a great scholar. He patronized many scholars, and a number of Sufi saints also came to India for the propagation of Islam. The famous Qutb Minar near Mehrauli, that is near Delhi, the tallest stone tower in India, which have 238 feet, was completed in the year 1231 during the reign of Iltutmish. It gives credit to the architectural achievements of the Iltutmish and slave dynasty. He also built magnificent mosque at Ajmer. All these contributions earned name and fame to the Sultan Iltutmish. After Iltutmish, the slave dynasty was succeeded by a memorable ruler in the history of India, that is Sultana Razia. The accession of Sultana Razia is a memorable event in the history of India because she is the first woman ruler who sat on the throne and exercised the royal powers with his own courage and enthusiasm. Regarding Razia's career and achievements are concerned, Sultana Razia was the first woman ruler in the Delhi Sultanate. During the time of Iltutmish, because of the non-availability of any competitive heads, Iltutmish considered Sultana Razia as the worthy person to the throne. Thus, he nominated his daughter Razia as the successor, even though it is against the traditions of Islam. Though Iltutmish nominated Sultana Razia as a successor, but she faced several problems for the access of the throne. The reason is the Qazi of Delhi and the Nazir made Ruknuddin Firoz Shah, the eldest son of Iltutmish, as the Sultan. But he was a weak, competent, and indulged in pleasure of life. Hence, his mother, Shah Turkan, assumed all powers by keeping his son as asset. There was a rivalry among the nobles for capturing the throne also. In these circumstances, Razia defeated her brother with the support of the people of Delhi and ascended the throne in the year 1236. So that Razia, in the beginning itself, she proved her talent to succeed the throne. Though her reign was just for 3 years, her bravery, her struggle, and her undaunted spirit has been preserved in the treasures of history. Particularly when she became the Sultan, the governors of Multan, Badan, Hansi, and Lahore revolted against her. Wazir Junaidi and many other nobles also refused to reconcile themselves to have a woman as the ruler. Besides the above, the most formidable enemy for her rule was the famous Fati, also known as Chahalgani, which was created during the time of Iltutmish. It marked the beginning of a struggle for power between the monarch and the Turkish chiefs, sometimes called as Chahalgani. Regarding the achievements of Sultana Razia, the nobles wanted to install a puppet on the throne whom they could control over the Sultan, but Razia was not prepared to play their game. She discarded the female apparel and started holding court with her face unveiled. She even hunted and led the army in war. The Wazir Nizamul-Mulk Junaidi, who had opposed her elevation to the throne, was defeated and forced to flee. He also sent an expedition against Ranthambore to control the Rajput state. She also established law and order in the length and breadth of her kingdom. Sultana Razia, to consolidate her position, she attempted many administrative reforms and he tried to appoint the loyal nobles for strengthening his power. In these sequences of administrative reforms, she created a party of royal nobles and raised non-Turks to high office. Razia appointed Jamaluddin Yaqut, an Ethiopian slave, as a superintendent of the royal horses. This aroused resentment in a majority of the already disgruntled Turkish nobles. Particularly in the year 1240, Altunia, one of the governor of Batinda, revolted against the decision of Sultana Razia. To suppress that revolt, she went in a person, but Altunia killed Yaqut and took Razia also prisoner. Taking advantage of this confusion, Bahram, the another son of Iltutmish, was put on the throne by the powerful Turkish nobles. In these circumstances, when she was in prison and the throne was succeeded by Bahram Shah, to save her, Razia decided to marry Altunia. After marrying Altunia, both the couple decided to march towards the Delhi with her husband. But unfortunately, she was defeated by Bahram and the couple was put to death on the very next day by some robbers where they were on the way near Kaital. Thus ended the romantic reign of the Queen Sultana Razia. However, though Sultana Razia ruled 4 years, but she created her own mark in the history of Delhi Sultanate, as well as her contribution to the Mamluk Dynasty is everlasting. Sultana Razia was an able ruler, a great administrator and commander. She was the first and last woman ruler of medieval India. She set up proper and complete law and order in her entire empire. Razia had all the qualities to rule as a sultanate. The only weakness was her gender. Regarding her qualities as an administrator and ruler, the famous historian Minhas described as a great sovereign endowed with all admirable attributes and qualifications necessary for kings. That means she possessed all the qualities which the sovereign required. But her fall was not primarily due to her unorthodox manner of performing royal duties in violation of Muslim social custom, but it was her encroachment upon the monopoly of office and power by the Turkish nobles which ruined her. Thus, Sultana Razia occupies an important place in the history of medieval India, and she proved herself as a worthy ruler in Delhi Sultanate. After Bahram Shah became the Sultan, while Razia was alive, the fall of Razia paved the way for the ascendancy of the 40 once again. In the next 6 years, Bahram and Masud ruled over the Delhi. In the year 1241, taking advantage of this situation, the Mongols invaded India and even they came up to Lahore. In the very next year, Bahram Shah was killed. After the death of Bahram Shah, Masud Shah, the grandson of Iltutmish, was enthroned as a sultan. But Balban, one of the nobles of the court, conspired with Nasiruddin Mahmud's mother, Mamluk-i-Jahan, to overthrow Masud. Consequently, Masud was deposed and imprisoned. This paved the way for the succession of Nasiruddin Mahmud, who ruled the Delhi Sultanate from 1246 to 1266. But Nasiruddin Mahmud, though he was succeeded and ruled 20 years, but he was not that much of competitive ruler. He was a great scholar and a religious person. During his time, the original power was held by Balban. Nasiruddin was known to be very religious in the history of medieval India. He spent most of his time in prayer and copying the Quran. As a patron of scholar, he patronized a number of scholars and gave charity to poor and needy. He was an excellent man, but he did not fit in the political atmosphere of the period. The Sultan married Balban's daughter, who was a patron of the king, and made him Malik Naib, that is regent, in the year 1249. Thus, the Balban started his role in the Delhi Sultanate, particularly in the slave dynasty. During the time of Nasiruddin Mahmud, he awarded the title of Ulugh Khan to Balban. Balban, in these 20 years, proved his ability and resourcefulness by saving the Delhi Sultanate from internal eruptions and external invasions. In the year 1266, Nasiruddin was died without issues. That's the end of the line of Iltutmish and the starting point of the glorious reign of Balban. From this discussion, it is a known fact that after the death of Iltutmish, for nearly 3 decades, the Mamluk Dynasty was in declining stage. And though it was in decline and the throne was succeeded by incompetent rulers, but due to the efforts of Balban, it was in surviving stage. After the death of Nasiruddin Shah, Balban ascended the throne. The succession of the Balban, it paved the way for the reaching glory of the Delhi Sultanate in all matters. Now, we may turn our discussion to highlight the career and achievements of Balban and his contribution to Delhi Sultanate. Qutb-ud-din was the original name of the Balban. When he was young, he was captured by Mongols and carried to Ghazni and sold to Khwaja Jamaluddin of Basra. Later, he brought him to Delhi in the year 1232 along with the other slaves who were all purchased by the Sultan Iltutmish. After the purchase of Sultan Iltutmish, Balban was originally appointed as the Sultan's personal attendant in the initial stages. By his merit, he became an important person and joined as a member of the 40. Under Razia reign, he became a chief huntsman and obtained Revari in Punjab as a Jagir during the time of Bahram. He was also instrumental in placing Nasiruddin on the throne. Later, he became minister and deputy of Nasiruddin. Thus, the early life of career, it gives an impression that Balban was an experienced person in the Delhi Sultanate who rose to the position of the Sultan from beginning stage as a slave, and he played for nearly 20 years in consolidating the Delhi Sultanate as a regent during the time of Nasiruddin Shah. Thus, Balban started his career as a sovereign in 1266 and continued up to 1287. It is an important phase in the history of Mamluk Dynasty. When the Balban ascended the throne, there were several problems for the Delhi Sultanates which Balban have to overcome. Among the problems which was surmounted at the beginning of Balban, during the 30 years followed by Iltutmish, the affairs of the state had fallen into confusion. The treasury of the Delhi Sultanate had become almost empty. The 40 Turkish nobles became selfish and they became a source of menace. Regarding the political situation in the northwest, the Delhi Sultanate was exposed to the menace of the recurring Mongol raids continuously from the inception of the Mamluk Dynasty. The powerful Hindu states in Rajputana and central India, though they were suppressed several times, again they had increased their military powers. Regarding the political conditions of the Balban's accession, in short, Bharani writes thus: the country had fallen into a wretched condition. It was under this background and circumstances, Balban, by his policy of blood and iron, got rid of all these problems. Balban, who had experienced all these problems and who involved in the administrative matters of the Delhi Sultanate for the last 20 years, he started his career with the reforms in various administrative matters. Particularly, to overcome all these problems, the important achievement which he attempted is the creation of strong army. He realized that a strong army was essential requisite for the stability of the Delhi Sultanate. So he set himself to the task of reorganizing the military administration. The military department was separated from the rest of the civil departments and it was placed under the control of the army minister Arij-e-Mumalik. He was the supreme commander of the army forces, but the entire army was under the control of Sultan. So the personal interest taken by the Sultan and the vigilance of the central government and efficiency, the tone of feudal contingents was considerably improved to make early challenges of the forthcoming. After reorganizing the army, Balban started the invasions to control all the situation and also to expand further the Delhi Sultanate. In the initial stages, Balban concentrating towards restoring law and order situation in the Delhi and Doab regions, because it was one of the famous military campaigns of Balban, which it was against Mayo or Mio, the people of Mewat who used to plunder the people of Delhi. The constant raids of Mewas into Delhi had made the people's lives very miserable. To deal with these elements, Balban adopted a policy of blood and iron. The robberies were mercilessly pursued and even put to death. To control these type of rebellions permanently, he established military posts manned by Afghans. He established these military posts in those regions and the soldiers were given tax-free lands. The villages belonging to these rebels in the Doab region were destroyed and the peasants were encouraged to settle down to a peaceful life. Because of his efforts, the roads became safe for travel and trade. The agriculture was improved. It leads to the further urbanization of the Delhi and Doab regions. This enabled the revenue officials to collect the revenue regularly from the peasants, and thereby the financial position of the state was increased considerably. Balban thus successfully restored the law and order situation in the Delhi and Doab regions, and he re-established his control all the regions, and it helped for the collection of revenues and for the prosperity of the state. After this, Balban attempted to suppress the 40 nobles who are a permanent persons creating troubles from the inception up to the Balban. It is a known fact that Balban was also one of the famous party, and he know very well the havoc played and the power yielded by them since the beginning. Thus, he decided to destroy the 40. He spared only the obedient nobles and eliminated all other by fair and foul means. In pursuance of his policy of curbing the power of nobles, Balban tried to regulate the tenure of the lands in the Doab enjoyed by them. He decided to destroy the power of the Shami nobles also, who became the greatest hurdle to improve his strength and solidarity. He followed a slow and steady policy to undermine their political status and military power, particularly on Shami nobles. He sent them out of the capital and assigned some risky and difficult tasks. They were promoted as provincial governors in the northwestern frontier province and also entrusted the duty of checking the Mongol menace. And he also frequently transferred these provincial governors from one place to another place to prevent and to check their overwhelming growth and also for their rivalries. Balban also adopted stern and severe attitude towards the Shami nobles. Thus, he successfully destroyed the 40 and also Shami nobles, and he strengthened his position in all the way. To continue further and to suppress these type of revolts permanently, he was the person who started a spy system or espionage to get the required information from time to time. Balban created an excellent espionage system during his time. A large number of news writers and spies were posted. They were given high salaries and were kept under the direct control of Sultan. They were meticulously watched the activities of the nobles, ministers, and members of the royal family. They were punished very severely if they failed to submit correct and prompt reports to the Sultan about the nefarious activities of the nobility. Thus, the Balban not only suppressed the 40, and at the same time with the introduction of the spy system, the every information which is going in the entire empire, it was reached Delhi to control and to establish a systematic power over the entire empire. After the completion of these tasks, Balban attempted the another revolt, that is suppression of Bengal revolt. The most serious of all the rebellions was Bengal rebellion, which was occurred during the reign of Balban. It was already several times it was suppressed. However, during his time, Tughril Khan, one of the trusted slaves of Balban, whom he made governor of Bengal and gave him a rude shock by rebelling. He assumed the title of Sultan and also stuck coins on his name. It gave a jolt to the sovereignty of the Balban. Thus, the Balban decided to make a big invasion and to suppress the Bengal revolt. In the initial stages, Balban sent 2 expeditions to suppress the Tughril, but it was ended as a failure. After 2 expeditions, Balban himself conducted the 3rd campaign personally with the help of a huge army. In this expedition, the Tughril Khan was ultimately captured by Balban army and occupied Bengal. After that, Balban appointed his second son, Bughra Khan, as the governor of Bengal. Thus, the Bengal became a part and parcel of the Delhi Sultanate once again under the leadership of Balban. Another important political achievement of the Balban is Mongol menace and his relation with the Mongols. Mongol menace became very active during the time of Balban. The Mongols attacked several times on the Delhi Sultanate in the year 1271, 1279, 1285 and 1286. The Mongol attacks were successfully repelled in all the times. Unfortunately, in these attacks, the Prince Muhammad, the son of Balban, was killed in an encounter. It was a mortal blow to the Balban. After this incident, Balban did not live long after the death of his son, and he died in the year 1287. Thus, Balban, during his career of 20 years, he successfully restored the law and order situation in Delhi, suppressed the nobles' party. He also suppressed the Mongol menace. He improved the financial position of the state and also set up an efficient administration for the Delhi Sultanates. Now, we may turn to discuss about the Balban theory of kingship and the silent features of it. Balban's theory of kingship was the theory of divine right of kings. He styled himself as the shadow of God and the vice regent of the God on earth. Balban constantly sought to increase the prestige and power of the monarchy. For this, he cast a halo of superiority around the monarchy. Balban tried to strengthen his claim to the throne by declaring that he was the descendant of the legendary Iranian king Afrasiab. In order to prove his claim to noble blood, Balban stood forth as the champion of the Turkish nobility. While claiming to act as a champion of Turkish nobility, Balban was not prepared to share power with anyone, not even with members of his own family. This visually meant exclusion of the Indian Muslims from all positions of power and authority. He took every keen interest in improving his military strength and thereby introduced the element of militarism in his polity. In order to win the confidence of the public, he administered justice with impartiality. Balban maintained a dazzling darbar to increase the prestige and power of the Sultan. In this attempt, Balban introduced rigorous court discipline. He refused to laugh and joke in the court and even gave away drinking wine so that no one may see him in a non-serious mode. Wherever he went, he was surrounded by a large force of bodyguards with drawn swords. One of the important features of his polity is he introduced the Persian court manners, customs, and festivals. Particularly, he introduced Sijda, that is the prostration, Paibos, that is the kissing the feet of Sultan in the court, as the normal form of salutation to the Sultan. He introduced the Persian festival of Nowruz to impress the nobles and subjects with his wealth and power. These and many other ceremonies, which he copies from Iranian in origin and were considered as un-Islamic. Balban was undoubtedly one of the main architects of Sultanate of Delhi, particularly of its form of government and institutions. He became a trendsetter in his theory of kingship. Besides, as a great administrator, he always loved for promotion of language and literature. His court was adorned by several poets of Arabic and Persian. Among them, Amir Khusru and Amir Hussain were the great literary figures that followed him. It is said that he took delight in dining with the company of learned and pious men and held converse with them on subjects of law and religion. Thus, Balban proved himself as a great ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. He not only showed interest in the political matters, he created a new trend in the polity of Delhi Sultanate, which it became a source for the next sultans. Particularly, the same system was followed by later Khiljis, Tughlaqs and Mughals with some innovations. Now, we may turn our discussion to the declining of the Mamluk Dynasty and how the Mamluk or slave dynasty was declined. When Balban found that his end was fast approaching, he called his son Bughra Khan to stay with him, but he was afraid of the stern nature of his father that he slipped from Bengal. Then Balban proclaimed his grandson Qutb-ud-din as his successor and died in the year 1287. Qutb-ud, the last ruler of the Mamluk Dynasty, sank into debauchery and was unable to give up his dissipated lifestyle. He was soon struck with paralysis and was finally killed in a pitiable manner by the Khilji Maliks. Thus, the Ilbari rule or Mamluk Dynasty came to an end. After this discussion on the Delhi Sultanate, particularly the Mamluk Dynasty, I hope you may understood how the Delhi Sultanate was established in the beginnings of the 13th century. The circumstances paved the way for the establishment of the slave dynasty, the important rulers, their achievements, the rise of Mamluk Dynasty and its disappearance. Besides this, we also highlighted the administrative achievements of each and every ruler and their contribution to Indian history and culture. For more details, you go through the e-text and also self-assessment for better understanding. Thank you.